At the beginning of the Phenomenology of Spirit, Hegel traces the path of consciousness from its simplest stage, which he calls sense certainty. In this stage, an individual experiences the world solely through their senses. Everything that is seen, heard, or touched appears real only in the form in which it is perceived. But is reality merely what we see? Analysis. Hegel demonstrates that sense certainty is the most primitive and limited form of knowledge. Imagine looking at an object, say, an apple. You say, "This is an apple," but how precise is the statement? The color of the apple changes depending on the light. Its shape appears different from various angles. Even your perception of the apple may shift depending on different conditions. Therefore, if we rely solely on our senses, we cannot attain a stable understanding of reality. This stage of cognition is unstable and ever-changing. Hegel argues that at this stage, consciousness has not yet reached a deeper understanding of the world and truth. Conclusion of Chapter 1. Hegel concludes that sense certainty alone is insufficient. We need a form of knowledge that goes beyond mere sensory experience. Here, consciousness begins to move from the most superficial perception of the world toward a deeper understanding. This stage is merely the beginning of a journey that becomes more complex and complete in the following chapters. Chapter 2, Self-Consciousness. Introduction. In the second chapter of the Phenomenology of Spirit, Hegel discusses self-consciousness. At first, a person is only aware of the external world. However, over time, they realize that they themselves are also part of this world. This awareness of the self can only emerge when an individual recognizes that the other also exists. In other words, I can only truly know myself if another person sees and acknowledges me. Analysis. Hegel explains that self-consciousness always develops in relation to others. Imagine a person living alone on an island. Could they truly know themselves? Hegel argues that self-knowledge only happens through interaction with others, in a process he calls recognition. This is where he introduces the idea of a struggle for recognition. People in society constantly seek validation from others to establish and affirm their identity. Here, Hegel introduces a crucial concept, the master-slave dialectic. When two self-conscious beings encounter each other, both want to be acknowledged as independent. However, one proves to be stronger and dominates the other. The defeated individual becomes the slave, while the dominant one becomes the master. But there is a paradox: the master depends on the recognition of a slave, which holds little value. Ultimately, it is the slave, through labor and experience, who gains a deeper understanding of the world. Conclusion of Chapter 2. Hegel's key insight is that our self-consciousness is always shaped through relationships with others. Our understanding of ourselves is tied to the recognition we receive, but this recognition is always a struggle. This battle for acknowledgement can be seen throughout history, society, and even in everyday life. Chapter 3, Reason. Introduction. In the previous chapters, consciousness progressed from sense certainty to self-consciousness. Now, at this stage, Hegel introduces reason. Reason goes beyond self-consciousness. It not only acknowledges itself and others but also perceives the world as an ordered and rational whole. But is the world truly rational? Are there fixed laws that can explain everything? Analysis. Hegel argues that, unlike sense certainty, which relies solely on sensory data, reason seeks a deeper understanding of the world. At this stage, individuals try to discover universal laws and patterns in nature, society, and even their own thoughts. However, understanding the world through reason is not always straightforward. Initially, reason assumes that the world operates according to clear and fixed principles. But over time, it realizes that reality is far more complex than it first appeared. Reason initially attempts to fit everything into predefined frameworks, yet reality always exceeds these limitations. At this point, reason experiences two key paths. One instrumental reason which tries to explain the world through scientific, mathematical, and logical principles. 2. Dialectical reason, which realizes that true knowledge arises through contradictions and the dynamic process of change. In this stage, reason comes to understand that true knowledge requires questioning itself as well. Understanding is not just about uncovering natural laws but also about recognizing reason's own role in shaping knowledge. Conclusion of Chapter 3. Ultimately, reason concludes that real knowledge is only possible when the world is seen not as a rigid system of fixed laws but as a dynamic and ever-evolving process. This realization marks the transition from mere reason to the next stage, spirit, where a deeper understanding of both the self and society emerges. Chapter 4, Spirit. Introduction. In the previous chapters, consciousness evolved from sensory experience to self-consciousness and then to reason. But now, Hegel takes another step forward. He introduces the concept of spirit. Spirit goes beyond individual consciousness. At this stage, a person no longer thinks only about themselves or their personal knowledge but enters the collective and historical world. Here, Hegel shows that our consciousness is deeply connected to society, culture, and history. Analysis. Spirit is embodied in the structures of society, traditions, morality, laws, and even human history. At this stage, the individual realizes that their knowledge and identity are not purely personal but are shaped by the society in which they live. Hegel divides spirit into 3 key aspects. 1. Objective spirit, which includes laws, social institutions, and traditions. For example, the legal system of a country or the cultural beliefs of a society are part of the objective spirit. 2. Moral spirit, which relates to the role of the individual in society and the values people accept and uphold, such as justice, duty, and freedom. 3. Absolute spirit, the highest level of understanding, encompassing art, religion, and philosophy. At this stage, humanity attains a comprehensive grasp of truth and the meaning of life. However, this journey is not always smooth. Throughout history, societies have faced contradictions and crises. A society may embrace certain values that later come into question. This is where spirit moves and evolves through history. Conclusion of Chapter 4. Ultimately, Hegel shows that spirit is a dynamic process. Human history is, in fact, the history of the evolution of spirit. Individual consciousness can only develop through engagement with society and history. This stage paves the way for the next phases: religion and absolute knowledge, where truth is revealed at its highest level.